Make sure you wash your hands thoroughly before you cook, and also ask your parents' permission. Hello, today we're going to make profiteroles and we're going to use choux pastry to do this. The ingredients you'll need are 150 millilitres of water, make sure that's accurate, in fact make sure everything's accurate, 75 grams of plain flour. You could use strong flour, but ordinary plain flour would be fine. 50 grams of butter or margarine, and 2 eggs. 2 large eggs would be preferable, and we do have to use a bit of judgment here, so it's not exactly 2 eggs, but I'll show you all that later on. So those are the ingredients you'll need, plus you will need some cream. Now you can use spray cream for this, which is quite good. It's a temporary thing, so they can be served as you spray the cream into them. Or you can use whipping cream, which you have to pipe into them if you have a piping bag. Or you could use spray cream for it, and also you're going to need some chocolate. So if you've got an old Easter egg that is not being used, or some chocolate from that, that's good. Or if you've got cooking chocolate, dark chocolate is fine, but it's not quite as sweet, so we might have to sweeten the cream if you use dark chocolate. And those are the ingredients. Okay, so what we will need, equipment-wise, is a good set of scales here, accurate scales, a couple of dessert spoons, that's for spooning the choux pastry onto the baking tray, a baking tray. If you've got greaseproof paper, that's great. You need some bowls for weighing, a good measuring jug, a decent saucepan, a wooden spoon, and a sieve. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is to make sure you've got your ingredients correctly weighed out and preheat the oven. Oven time and temperature will be displayed, and then you have to boil the water in a saucepan with the butter, and the butter will melt while the water is boiling. And then you have to add the flour, mix it in briskly, and then let it cool down. So what we're seeing here is, as you heat the water up, the butter will melt into the water, of course, as it boils. It's kind of a strange process. It will sizzle a little bit, but that is quite normal. And as the butter melts and comes up to the boil, then it will be ready for the flour to go in. When you put the flour in, you have to put it in very quickly, and then you have to stir it very quickly and very briskly together. So that you end up basically with a sort of mixture that looks a little bit like yellow mashed potato, actually. It might not appear to be correct, but actually it is entirely correct. That's what it should look like. So the water's not quite boiling yet. It does need to be boiling quite well before you put the flour in. But don't let it boil too long, because if you let it boil too long, the water will evaporate. Here you can see that I'm just briskly mixing the flour in, and you're giving it quite a good mix, and then in the end the mixture will just seem to sort of reject the pan, and it goes into a sort of a smoother lump, and that is what is happening here in this process. It is important as well, just as a little side note here, is that you must turn off the heat underneath it before you kind of mix the flour in. That's the best way to go about it. Okay, so now what we will find is that this mixture here will cool down, and what we're going to do to it is add eggs to it. So we're going to break the eggs into a jug, and then use a fork to whisk the eggs up. And then we have to add the eggs slowly to the mixture, stirring it in quite briskly. You can use a saucepan, the same saucepan if it's cooled down. Some people prefer to transfer the mixture into a bowl. Some people even prefer to transfer the mixture into a mixing type machine, like this one. But you might need a bit more mixture to do that, because if you've got a small amount of mixture, it doesn't really warrant using such a large machine as this. So I will show you the next process now. How to go. So you need 2 large eggs. These actually are quite small, these eggs I'm using here. So it could be that you'll need a 3rd egg if your eggs are quite small. And you do have to use a bit of judgment. So, and also this is quite difficult if you're doing it by hand with a wooden spoon and a saucepan. It's quite difficult to get the eggs in and mix it at the same time and then get the mixture at the desired consistency. But it does work, persevere, add a little bit of egg at a time. If your mixture is looking, you know, good, what we call dropping consistency, then it's okay to go ahead and use it and put it in the oven. But if it's looking a bit thick, you might have to add a little bit more egg. If it's you know, looking right, then stop adding egg. You might not use all your egg, you might use a little bit more egg. It's a judgment. So it has to go to dropping consistency. And this is a dropping consistency. It's falling off the spoon like this. So the next thing is, once you've got your mixture made like this, is we're going to spoon it onto a baking tray. You can do this with a piping bag, but because I think I'm just going to show you the spooning way, because that's quite a good way of doing it too. And then they go into the oven. They go into the oven for 15 to 20 minutes on full heat. And then my advice is to have a look through the window of the oven if you can, and then just turn the heat down a little bit because they need to dry out. If you take them out too soon, they might sink. So that's the next stage. So you have to spoon the mixture on very carefully with 2 spoons. So you're picking it up, and don't make them too big because otherwise they'll be difficult to rise. And then you set them a little bit away from each other so they don't stick together as they're cooking, and then you put them in the oven. So when you melt your chocolate, you do it by a process called bain-marie. So if you have a saucepan of water which is heating underneath a glass bowl, that will melt the chocolate. Be careful, especially if you're using milk chocolate or Easter egg chocolate, don't overheat it. Because it goes too thick and it just doesn't work. So gently heat it so it just melts gently. So the chocolate here has just warmed gently, and it is nice and melted here like this, you can see. If you overheat it, it's going to go too thick. So I've just taken them out of the oven. They're crispy, they've dried out quite nicely, and they're looking good. So what I will do now is either dip them into the chocolate, or you can drizzle the chocolate on top. I'll show some examples of both, and then we can get the cream in. So the final bit will be me showing you how to get the cream into them. You can use sweetened whipped cream, and they will have to be applied into the profiteroles with a piping bag. But for the sake of ease, I'm going to use spray cream in these just to show you that as an alternative. Okay. So what you're going to do is to take a sharp knife very, very carefully, just pierce a hole in the profiterole, and then you can use a spray cream to spray the cream inside, and then you've served one. There we are, voila.